We've all heard it, that 80% of the ocean remains unexplored, that we know more about the dusty, frozen surface of Mars than we do about the world hidden beneath our own waves. But here's the question almost no one ever asks. If that's true, do we even understand what's on land with us? Because scattered across this planet, sitting in plain sight, are things that shouldn't exist. Artifacts that predate recorded history, structures that modern machines struggle to reproduce, tools made without metal by people who, as far as we know, didn't even write. These are not legends. They're cataloged in museums, photographed, measured, tested. They exist physically, undeniably. And yet their purpose, their creators, even the knowledge required to build them makes no sense to modern science. Tonight, we're stepping into that blind spot of history. These are 7 real discoveries that science still can't explain. And no, this isn't fiction. Everything you're about to see is real. In a quiet corner of Yale University, far from the noise of campus life, there's a library room that feels more like a vault. Fluorescent lights hum softly overhead, dust motes drift in the air, and behind a sheet of thick glass sits a book that has driven some of the world's smartest people to the edge of madness. It's called the Voynich Manuscript. At first glance, it looks like any old, weathered volume, cracked binding, yellowed pages, ink faded with time. But the moment you open it, reality starts to feel wrong. Inside are hundreds of pages covered in delicate handwritten script, looping and flowing like a real language. But it's not. The letters don't match anything we know. They don't belong to Latin, Greek, Arabic, Chinese, or any known writing system on Earth. The plants sketched beside the text make it worse. They look like botanical illustrations, except most of them don't exist. Leaves that twist in impossible shapes. Flowers no one has ever seen in the wild. Root systems that look more like alien circuitry than anything that grows in soil. For over a century, some of the brightest minds have tried to crack it. Code breakers from the US military, cryptographers who've broken wartime ciphers, linguists who've dedicated their lives to dead languages. Even modern AI models and powerful computers have taken a shot at it. Nothing. No translation. No pattern we can actually read. And yet, here's the part no one can shrug off. Whoever wrote this knew exactly what they were doing. The letters repeat with the rhythm of real words. Chapters seem to follow themes: astronomy, biology, possibly medicine. The structure has grammar, spacing, organization. It isn't gibberish. It behaves like a language, but one that has never been spoken, at least not in our history. Some say it's the work of a forgotten civilization, a culture so old or so different that everything about it slipped through the cracks of time. Others insist it's an ancient prank, an elaborate hoax designed to fool scholars for centuries. But hoaxes usually reveal themselves eventually. Patterns slip, mistakes show. The Voynich manuscript doesn't. It just sits there, silent, stubborn, and unreadable, as if it was never meant for us at all, but for someone else entirely. Someone who isn't here anymore, or someone who hasn't arrived yet. If the Voynich manuscript is a message we can't read, our next mystery is a machine we were never supposed to find. The year is 1901. Off the rocky coast of the Greek island of Antikythera, a team of sponge divers is searching the turquoise waters for their next big haul. One diver descends, and doesn't come up when he should. When he finally surfaces, shaken and wide-eyed, he doesn't talk about fish or coral. He talks about a ghost ship lying in the dark. Curious, the crew returns to the spot and begins hauling up what they can. Broken amphorae, statues torn apart by the sea, rusted coins from an ancient Roman shipwreck. It's history, sure, but nothing unheard of. Then they drag up something that looks like a useless lump, a strange chunk of bronze fused with wood, coral, and barnacles. It's ugly, heavy, and disappointing. For a while, that's all it is: sea junk. But when archaeologists begin to clean it, the ocean's secret slowly peels away. Under the corrosion, shapes emerge. Teeth, circles, lines. They realize they're looking at gears. Real gears. Intricate, interlocking, and precisely cut, layered in ways no one expected from the ancient world. This isn't a statue. It isn't art. It's a machine. What they uncovered would become known as the Antikythera mechanism, a 2,000-year-old device built, as we now understand, to track the movements of the stars and planets, predict eclipses, and map the phases of the moon. Some researchers even believe it could account for the uneven speed of the moon's orbit with shocking accuracy. In simple terms, it's a computer and analog, hand-cranked cosmos calculator, not from the 1800s, not from the Renaissance, from ancient Greece, centuries before anyone thought this kind of technology should exist. And here's what still stuns scientists today. Nothing even close to this level of mechanical sophistication appears again in the archaeological record for roughly 1,000 years. It's like digging through a Bronze Age village and finding a smartwatch buried in the mud. To build this, someone needed advanced math, astronomical data, metalworking skill, and incredible precision. Yet we have no record of the workshop, no record of the engineer, no record of the teacher who passed this knowledge down. So who built it? Was it the work of a lone genius whose ideas died with him? A lost school of engineers whose achievements were burned, drowned, or buried by time? And if they were capable of building something this advanced, what else did they create that's still lying at the bottom of the sea, waiting for another diver to get lost in the dark? From the warm blue waters of Greece, we jump to something much colder and much stranger. It's 2011. In the dark, churning waters of the Baltic Sea, a Swedish diving crew is out on a routine mission, scanning the seafloor with sonar, looking for shipwrecks worth salvaging. Hour after hour, the screen shows the same familiar patterns: rocks, sediment, the occasional twisted metal. Then something different appears. On the monitor, a new shape forms, massive, circular, and impossibly clean, about 60 meters across, perfectly round. Unlike the ragged outlines of wrecked ships, this thing has sharp angles, straight lines. It even seems to have what looks like a ramp and steps carved into its side. For a moment, everyone on board just stares. It doesn't look like a ship. It doesn't look like a rock. It looks designed. At first, they guess it might be some unusual formation or maybe a strange kind of wreck. But ships don't come in perfect circles. They don't sit like discs pressed into the ocean floor. And deep down, someone says what everyone else is thinking but doesn't want to say out loud. It looks like a UFO that never made it back into the sky. Intrigued and a little uneasy, the divers suit up and descend. The deeper they go, the darker it gets, until the surface is just a memory. Their beams of light cut through the murk as they approach the anomaly. That's when things start to go wrong. Their lights begin to flicker, radios crackle and then go dead. Compasses spin like they've forgotten where north is. One diver feels dizzy and blacks out. Others report that the silence underwater doesn't feel normal. The ocean is never truly quiet. There's always the distant hum of life, the subtle roar of currents. But here, they say, it's like the sea itself is holding its breath. When they finally reach the object, the details are even stranger up close. Sharp edges, flat surfaces, patterns that don't belong on a chunk of random stone. Experts later try to put the mystery to rest, calling it a natural rock formation, the result of glacial movement scraping and shaping the seafloor. But there's a problem. No known rock formation is famous for shutting down electronics. And nature rarely carves straight lines, ramps, and steps with such geometric precision. To this day, that circular structure still sits at the bottom of the Baltic Sea, unexplained, largely untouched, and for many, deeply unsettling. The divers left that place behind. But sometimes, they say, it still feels like something down there is quietly watching the surface, waiting. Leave the cold, black waters of the Baltic behind, and we find ourselves standing high in the thin air of the Andes. The wind is sharp, the sky is impossibly blue, and below the jagged mountain peaks lies the ancient city of Cusco, once the beating heart of the Inca Empire. Just outside this city, hidden in plain sight along narrow stone streets, there's a wall that doesn't look like much at first glance. It's not towering, it's not covered in carvings or gold, but the closer you get, the more your sense of reality starts to slip. The wall is made of massive stones, some as big as cars, some so heavy they outweigh a private jet. Yet they fit together with such flawless precision that you can't even slide a razor blade between them. No mortar, no cement, just pure stone locked so tightly that it almost feels grown, not built. Each block is a different shape, with curves, corners, and angles that twist in 3 dimensions, fitting together like the world's hardest jigsaw puzzle. Most walls are just stacks. This one is a puzzle made of giants. And here's the part that stops archaeologists cold. This was built by the Inca civilization. On paper, the Inca were a Stone Age society. No iron tools, no steel chisels, no wheels to move heavy objects, no written language to record blueprints or construction manuals. Yet, somehow, they carved, shaped, and maneuvered these stones into a structure that behaves like something out of the future. Over the centuries, Peru has been hit by brutal earthquakes, the kind that reduce modern buildings to rubble, cracking concrete and twisting steel. But these Inca walls, they absorb the shock. The stones shift and settle, then slide right back into place. No collapse, no catastrophic failure. It's as if the wall was designed not just to stand, but to survive the earth itself shaking beneath it. Modern engineers, armed with cranes, diamond-tipped tools, lasers, and computer models, still struggle to replicate this level of precision on the same scale. If you ask them to build a wall that fits together like this, without mortar, by hand, they don't. They build it with technology the Inca supposedly never had. So how did the Inca do it? Some believe the answer is simple: generations of practice, genius stoneworkers, and techniques we've merely forgotten. Others go further, suggesting that this wasn't just the result of trial and error, but knowledge passed down from somewhere else. A legacy left by an older, more advanced civilization. Or, if you listen to the most extreme theories, something not entirely human. Whatever the truth is, the wall still stands, uncracked and unbothered, watching tourists walk by with their cameras. It doesn't explain itself. It just sits there, a silent riddle carved in stone. From the sunlit heights of the Andes, we travel to a place where the sky feels heavy and the air itself seems to hold a warning. Deep in the remote forests of eastern Siberia, far from cities, roads, and cell signals, there's a strange hill that locals refuse to approach. Animals avoid it, hunters give it a wide berth. On maps, it barely has a name. To the people who live nearby, it's known as the Fire Eagle's Nest. From a distance, it looks like a massive, cone-shaped mound rising abruptly from the landscape, over 130 feet tall and made entirely of stone. It doesn't blend in. It doesn't fade into the terrain. It juts out like something dropped there from above. At the top sits a smooth, dome-like structure that looks almost artificial, as if someone or something deliberately placed a capstone on the peak. Walk closer, and the ground around it tells a darker story. The earth is scorched in places, stained as if exposed to intense heat long ago. Scattered across the area are chunks of crushed limestone and shattered rock, looking like the aftermath of a massive explosion. But here's the catch. There are no volcanoes in the region, no evidence of a meteor impact, no known geological process that should create a stone cone like this, crowned with a dome, then ringed by scorched earth. And then, there's the way the land behaves. Compasses spin wildly near the mound, pointing in random directions as if north has been scrambled. GPS signals cut out. Equipment fails for no obvious reason. Trees nearby don't grow straight. Their trunks twist and lean away from the hill, as if something repels them. Birds refuse to nest in the branches. Animals won't graze here. Even insects seem less common, as if every living thing has silently agreed that this place is off limits. Scientists who've studied it are divided. Some believe it might have formed due to a massive underground explosion, something similar to the Tunguska event, a blast so powerful it shook the world in 1908. Maybe, they say, whatever happened here forced molten rock upward and left behind this stone cone. Others aren't convinced. The shape, the dome, the strange electromagnetic effects, none of it quite fits. Several expeditions have tried to investigate the Fire Eagle's Nest more deeply. Drills break unexpectedly. Measurements fail. Some researchers report feeling dizzy, nauseous, or overwhelmed by a sense of dread, as if the hill itself is pushing them away. Locals whisper that it's cursed, that the hill is guarding something buried deep within it, something we were never meant to uncover. And then there are the quiet rumors, passed around late at night, that whatever lies at the heart of that stone mound isn't just old, it's still active, still generating heat, energy, or something we don't have a name for. Not just a grave, but a nest. And nests are usually built for things that eventually wake up. From the cold, haunted forests of Siberia, we head south, into a very different kind of emptiness. In the deserts of western China, the air is dry, the wind cuts like sandpaper, and the landscape looks abandoned by time itself. Near the edge of an old, dried-up salt lake, there's a rocky rise that at first looks like just another nameless hill in a sea of dust. But as you get closer, you notice something that shouldn't be there. Sticking out of the rock are pipes, not scattered junk, not the twisted remains of some modern construction, but actual metal pipes embedded deep in solid stone. Some jut horizontally from the mountain's side. Others plunge straight down into the ancient lake bed, as if they're still connected to something buried far below. They don't look accidental, they look installed. When samples from these pipes were tested, the results stunned everyone involved. The material was dated to be over 150,000 years old. That's long before human beings had cities, before metal tools, before writing. According to everything we think we know, our ancestors at that time were still struggling just to survive, not engineering underground pipe networks in remote deserts. Yet, these pipes are clearly designed with purpose. Some of them are linked by clean T-shaped joints, forming connections that look like part of a plan system. Others form branching patterns, almost like a primitive plumbing or drainage grid. Even the material itself is strange, a mix of metals that don't naturally fuse together in neat, pipe-shaped cylinders. In some places, it even appears as if sections were welded with heat. But who 150,000 years ago was welding anything? Eventually, the Chinese government stepped in and sent experts to investigate. Their official explanation? The pipes were just fossilized tree roots, which had, over time, absorbed iron and other minerals, turning into hollow, tube-like structures. On paper, that sounds convenient, but tree roots don't grow as perfect cylinders. They don't connect with clean T-joints. They don't align in straight segments like machine parts. And they definitely don't look like they've been welded together. So if they aren't tree roots, what are they? Who built them? What were they meant to carry? Water, gas, something else entirely? And why here, in the middle of nowhere, thousands of years before the birth of what we call civilization? When you line them up with everything we've seen, the unreadable book, the ancient computer, the impossible wall, the silent machine in the sea, the cursed hill, it starts to feel less like a series of coincidences and more like a pattern. Maybe history isn't a straight line from primitive to advanced. Maybe there were other chapters before ours, wiped clean, leaving behind only a few impossible clues. Or maybe, just maybe, we're not the first ones to walk this planet and ask, who built all of this?